Hi, I'm Lori Hauptman, and I'm here with my husband, Yale. And today we're going to talk about some common questions that our clients ask about trusts. Hi, Yale.
Hi, Lori.
So I guess the basic question is, what is a trust?
What is a trust? Well, I explain a trust as, think of it as a person. It's not a living, breathing person, but it's an entity. It's a separate entity. So we have, and in the usual situation, we've got assets, and for whatever reason, and there are different reasons, we don't have a suitable person to hold that, and so we're creating this entity. And the other way to think of it is a box and putting your assets into a box.
But are all trusts the same? I mean, we hear about different kinds of trusts,
Right.
obviously.
Right, and we deal with different types of trusts. They come in all different shapes and sizes. I explain, what we explain to clients is that trusts aren't all the same any more than a person there's one person. There are a lot of different people in different shapes and sizes. So we have, for example, testamentary trusts, and there are inter vivos trusts. There are revocable trusts, there are irrevocable trusts. Within those categories, there are different trusts that work differently based on the rules of that trust. That's what the trust document does. We create this thing. What's it supposed to do? What is its purpose? And that's all set out in the trust document.
Well, one or two kinds of trusts that you hear people talking about a lot are a credit shelter trust or a bypass trust. So maybe you can familiarize us about that.
What a credit shelter or bypass trust, those types of trusts are typically testamentary trusts. They're in your will. They do not come into existence when you sign your will. You think of your will as a set of instructions that are a set of conditions, and the first condition is, if I die and this will is still in existence, please follow those instructions. And those types of trusts are generally designed to save on taxes, typically estate taxes.
So you mentioned about taxes, which is a concern for a lot of people. How much will these trusts allow you to save in taxes?
Well, it depends on the individual situation, but it could save tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars in taxes. Obviously, the bigger the estate, the more taxes that can be saved.
Now, you mentioned before credit shelter trusts or bypass trusts. What are some other trusts that we hear about and that we use in elder law?
Well, we use trusts a lot in trying to help manage long-term care issues and problems that our clients see as they start to age, and as the cost of long-term care increases. We use trusts a lot to try to protect and preserve, for example, the assets for the healthy spouse, so that the first spouse to get sick does not use up all of their assets before they can qualify for other sources of payment for those expenses. So we use different types of irrevocable trusts typically to help manage that.
Are those like the Veterans Eligibility Trust or?
Right, or our income-only trusts that we use that are designed to help manage and preserve, for example, the couple's assets for both spouses, not simply the first one to get sick, because the way the laws work, generally the first spouse that gets sick, almost all of the assets have to be spent down for that spouse's care before government benefits will kick in, and that doesn't leave a whole lot for the second spouse. So trusts can be very helpful in solving those types of problems.
But just to clarify, because people seem to always get concerned about trusts, if it's not in their control, it is for the benefit of them, isn't that correct?
Yes. Now, there are other types of trusts that are for the benefit of others, but the ones that you and I just were talking about is specifically for the benefit of the parents of the clients themselves. And in some of the other types of trusts that we use, for example, the special needs trusts, Laura, that you spend a lot of time with clients on, the beneficiary or the purpose of that trust is actually to benefit somebody else, typically a disabled child, so that that child may not be able to manage their own money, their own funds in the trust, and also they may be receiving government benefits, but the ability to put this money into that trust will be able to preserve those benefits and use that money for other things. So, you know, just an example, again, a lot of different trusts for a lot of different purposes.
So what about if I have a living trust? Will it save me on taxes? Will my assets be protected for long-term care purposes? Is that a good tool?
A living trust, and we used to see it a lot more in the 1990s, at least here in New Jersey. A living trust, one of the primary purposes is to avoid probate. And in some states, Florida, New York are examples, I think California, probate can be complex, it can be time-consuming, it can be expensive. And so putting all of your assets into a living trust is a way to avoid probate. Here in New Jersey, we're not really so concerned about probate. It's pretty easy, generally a pretty easy process. Living trusts usually are revocable. So not always, but I rarely see a living trust that is irrevocable. So when it's revocable, it has no effect and no usefulness in terms of long-term care planning. Now, as far as tax planning, typically a living trust will have provisions that pour the assets over into other credit shelter or bypass trusts. So usually the tax planning is all done within the framework of the trust, the living trust, as opposed to in the will.
Okay, well, I appreciate your answering for our audience.
And I think we've given them an earful.
I think we have. So thank you so much for listening. I hope that answered some of your questions. And if you want some more information, please call us at Hauptman & Hauptman at 973-994-2287 or visit our website at www.hauptmanlaw.com.